Good morning, everybody. My name is Paul Wilson, and I am one of the co-chairs of this year's Board of Trustees, along with Andos Helmers. On behalf of the board, I want to welcome you all, members and visitors alike, including all of you who are participating via our live stream, to the 2022 annual Congregational meeting of the Unitarian Universalist community of Charlotte. This has been a momentous year for the community in all kinds of ways, and we on the board very much hope that our meeting today will, among other things, provide an impetus for recovery, renewal, and innovation to meet the challenges that we will face in the future. Before we proceed to business, Sam Bisco will offer us some chalice lighting words.
Does the match love the wick? Does the wick love the wax or the air it consumes? Yes, without question. To melt together, to burn together, to change together, the pieces of the candle must love each other, though not necessarily wisely and not necessarily well.
So this is an open meeting, which means that visitors and very new members are welcome to attend. However, in order to vote and count toward a quorum, you have to have been a member for at least 3 months, which means you joined on or before March 5th of this year. Our bylaws require 20% of voting members to be present to conduct business, unless we vote to do it without a quorum. But let's see if we have it. We never make a quorum, but we might be kind of close. So if you qualify to vote, and that includes, pardon?
Do it the other way because we already counted. So
oh, okay.
Raise their hand if they can.
Okay, see, Susan is super efficient. I was gonna make them do all this counting and work, and I kind of still feel like doing it, but if you are not a voting member, please raise your hand and keep it up for a second. So how many do we have?
89.
We have 89, which is not a quorum. We do not have to go home as long as 89% of it, or 80, excuse me, as long as 80% of the voting members who are present vote to continue the meeting.
Question, do the absentee ballots count towards the quorum?
Ballots do not count. We're talking about people who are present. So right now, and again, I could make them jump up and, I could punch in 80%, but if you would vote against I'm sorry, do we have another question?
I was going to offer a motion to adopt, to proceed without a quorum.
We need to have a microphone. I didn't think we were going to get questions on the procedural vote, so I was all ready to explain that later.
Somebody young.
I was born for this one. I was not born for this job.
I was just going to offer a motion to vote to proceed without a quorum.
Okay, I did not know that we needed a motion, but maybe we do. So we have a motion. Do we have a second? Somebody just raise a hand. Okay, we have a second. So if you are opposed to continuing this meeting without a quorum, please raise your hand. So I believe we have a unanimous vote to continue as we expected. And with that, we will move to what I know a lot of people are eager to hear more about, which is an update on our move toward bringing in an interim minister. We all owe a deep debt of gratitude to our interim search team. That is John Burns, Susan McClelland, Megan Van Fleet, Melissa Vullo, and Paul Wilson. Could all of you please stand? John Burns is going to give us an update, and then we, I believe, are going to get a video introduction.
Good morning. We're all doing well. As Ann said, I'm one of the members of the search committee and been very privileged to be part of that. I want to give a particular shout out to Paul, who, in addition to being one of the members, did a lot of the checking in with the UUA and the procedures and the website and getting updates and really coordinating and scheduling a lot of behind the scenes things. It's a lot of effort. This recruitment process is well defined by the UUA, so I just want to give you a little flavor so you understand. And it happens each spring as ministers retire, move on, whatever. And it follows a pretty compressed time frame. It's about 4 weeks from start to finish to use this method. So first, all of the interested congregations who would like an interim minister submit a request to the UUA, and all ministers who are interested in being an interim minister submit their resumes. And so we prepare a resume that's kind of like, you know, who we are, our size, our budget, our staff, our membership, our history, whatever. And so all the minister candidates get to look through all of that and decide who they're interested in. And then you're given a list of the ministers who reviewed your congregation and would be interested in going there. Because obviously someone may say, I would never go to Charlotte, I don't want to be there, I don't want to do a large congregation or whatever. So that's where we start with, here's our candidates to look at, how do we feel about them? So we're given a list of 7 candidates and asked to divide them into 3 groups: definite yes, maybe, and no. So we went through that. So that includes doing reference checks, having interviews with each of the ministers, reading through their resumes, which are quite extensive, 20, 30 pages sometimes, watching videos of them presenting sermons in their congregation, whatever they've provided as information. So we went through all of that. A mix of candidates, some who had been an interim minister many, many years, some who this is their first time being an interim minister. And to be clear, the interim minister role, they like to say, they come pre-fired. They can serve 1 or 2 years. They cannot be called as your settled minister. They don't want to be called as your settled minister, and we don't want to call them as our settled minister. It's a special relationship that will help us call a settled minister. So we looked at all of the candidates from that perspective. Are they going to be able to help us as an interim minister? Not is this the best minister I've ever seen to come in and lead this congregation forward in the future. So from that, we got to a list of four yeses and 2 maybes and 1 no. And we turn all of that back to the UUA. They match up all of these different requests. And we were a little nervous because there were more churches or congregations requesting a minister than actual candidates. So not everyone was even going to get someone, and that assumed you got some matches. So to get 7 interested responses was great. And these were all very qualified people with great history as part of the UUA. So we sent back our list, and we're very pleased to report that Lisa Bovey-Kemper was a strong yes for us, and we were a strong yes for her. And so the board offered her a contract of employment, and she accepted that, and that will be a 1-year contract with an expectation we will probably extend to a 2nd year, but there's various things that go into that. So that will have her coming in starting in August. So she will do a lot of the ministerial tasks that you would expect that we're used to, but I want to make sure I'm clear on what the transition ministry is about, and what the UUA Transitional Ministry Handbook says specifically is the interim minister assists the congregation in moving beyond its last ministry and equipping itself for a new, different ministry. The preparation involves helping the congregation look at practices that may or may not be serving them well, assisting through the emotional process of transition, setting sights forward, and connecting the congregation to needed resources. So we hope that you will welcome us in joining Reverend Bovey-Kemper and her family to our community, and that you will participate in various exploration and visioning activities that she and the UUCC leadership will offer to help us on our transitional journey. And in a minute, we'll have a quick video introduction from her, but I first wanted to open this up for any questions anyone may have, either in the room or online.
If you are online and you have a question, again, go to our member Facebook page, and you'll find a post there that says this is where you can take your questions. So I'm going to be checking Facebook, so we're going to give a second if any of you have questions, and I'll ask them any if we get any.
If not, why don't we run the video and then at the end, oh, I think we have a question over here. Do we have our mic runner? Oh, no question? Okay, take it back. Okay, so we'll have a quick video intro and then we'll open it up again for questions either from the room or from online. Thank you.
Good morning to all of you at the Unitarian Universalist community of Charlotte. I'm the Reverend Lisa Bovee-Kemper, and I will be joining you on August 1st as your interim minister. I'm delighted to be able to take a moment to introduce myself as we get ready to embark on this new journey together. I'll begin with my gratitude to the Interim Search Committee, who did such a wonderful job of introducing me to y'all as a congregation. During the month of June, I will be doing my leave-taking here in Greenville, preaching my last sermon, and you will be saying goodbye to your current ministers. In July, I will be resting, packing, camping with my family, and we will make our move to Charlotte. On August 1st, our journey together begins. This journey that will be rooted in our Unitarian Universalist faith, in our covenants together, the relational promises that we make to one another, the ways that we are accountable to each other and to people we have never met, our ancestors, the cloud of witnesses that went before us, as well as the next generations of people who will come to this place after we are all gone. We are here to create vibrant and inclusive religious community with the express purpose that it will exist long after all of us are gone. Perhaps that is more acute for me as an interim minister than it is for you who are longer-term members of the congregation. Nonetheless, it is our sacred practice to live together in community, to honor our interdependence, to run toward the unknown, to embrace change as we risk collective liberation and transformation. I will come to you with a spirit of curiosity and an eye toward assessing systems, looking at what's working for you and what might come next. I will listen to hear who you are and where you as a community want to go next. My children, Harley and Elijah, and my wife, Cindy, are looking forward to meeting you, and we will be glad to join you in August. We are excited to be moving back to North Carolina, and we'll be looking for our new favorite ice cream parlor in town, so I will be happy to hear your recommendations when I arrive. I carry one of our UUA's, our In-Spirit bookstore's wonderful meditation manuals in my work bag at all times, just in case I get called on to do a reading on the spot. The anthology is called Voices from the Margins, and I want to share with you a reading from that book by Leslie Takahashi. It's called On the Brink. And that's the problem with a book that you use all the time. You have too many bookmarks and too many dog-eared pages. It's taking me a minute to find it. So here we go. On the Brink by Leslie Takahashi. All that we have ever loved and all that we have ever been stands with us on the brink of all that we aspire to create. A deeper peace, a larger love, a more embracing hope, a greater generosity of spirit, a deeper joy in this life we share. May it be so, and see you soon.
And any questions from the internet? Anything from the room? Got one back there. Wait for the mic if you would, please.
Hi, I wondered about the transition to the new minister. I assume that Jay leaves, she comes. Does the board help? I mean, how does she work through coming up to speed and taking the reins of the community?
So I've been in touch with her a good deal, and I will be in touch with her during the course of the summer. And she, I think we'll just have to speak with her about what she has in mind for her first time here. She'll be in the pulpit for the first time on August 7th, and between August 1st, her official start date, and then we'll be working out various modes of operating, but we'll do that. Not just I, the board will be doing this. I'm sort of the point person right now, but it doesn't have to be that way. But I'll take care of it, all right?
Any other questions? All right, well, again, thank you for allowing me to serve in this capacity, and to all of my fellow interim minister team members. We really enjoyed working together, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, before we proceed to the report and vote on the budget, we want to talk briefly about a big move that the board made this year to position us for the budget. As the best person to speak about that move, I would like to bring up one of the unsung heroes of this community, Treasurer Ron Macaroni. Would you please come forward?
Thank you, Paul. Morning, everyone. It's good to be here this morning with you all as well as the folks online. And I am pleased, it's my honor to share some exciting financial news for this congregation at this point in time when things aren't that great outside of the church financially. As of noon this past Friday, the 3rd of June, the church no longer has a mortgage. So we officially own this building free and clear as of now. Let me do a little bit of flashback to help you understand this. About 2 months ago, Jay, Alicia, and I met to talk about the possibility of paying off the mortgage. We felt this was possible because of the financial position of the church, the amount of money we actually had, liquid funds that we had in a bank at this point in time, and the fact that the mortgage outstanding balance was only about $134,000. Sounds like a lot, but at the time we had over $500,000 in liquid assets in the church. We felt that paying off the mortgage at this point in time would be good from a couple different perspectives. First, strategically, we felt it would be good to go into the new fiscal year without having a mortgage so that our funds could be used, the bulk of our funds could be used for programs rather than paying $44,000 a year to the bank for the benefit of having their money available to us. And then the second point we felt was would enable us to save. In other words, pay ourselves rather than to pay the bank every year. From a second perspective, we thought psychologically it would be better for the congregation as well as the visitors to the church to know that their money that they are giving to the church are going to support the programs. And then thirdly, as Jay mentioned, it would be nice when our new minister comes on board to be able to tell those individuals we're speaking to prior to their coming on board that they were coming to a church without debt. Unlike in his situation when he came on board, that one of the first major tasks he was faced with was leading the church to get a mortgage to pay for a new roof. So we felt that it would be good for in our ministerial search as well to not have a mortgage. We recognize, however, that in doing this action, taking this action to pay off the mortgage, we would have to borrow, and I'll explain what I mean by that in a moment. We would have to borrow about $130,000 from our reserve account. Our proposal was presented to both the finance team and the board, and after some discussion, they all concurred and approved the action, but they did have one very good question, and that question is, what would happen if we need some resources for a major expense? Is it wise for us to use some of our reserve funds now? And while we still have some money available, if you will, from the bank. Our response to that was kind of twofold. First off, we felt that even with using some of our reserve funds, we are still in a better financial position now than existed a few years ago when we had to get the mortgage for the roof. And then secondly, because in essence, we only have 2 more years on the current note. It's a note that we actually have to renew every 5 years. So right now we're paying 5.9% interest because churches don't get a good rate on mortgages, as I learned the hard way. But anyhow, we're going to have to renew it in a couple years anyhow, so we would have to go through the whole process of renewing a note. So again, the bottom line is we felt it would be good to take the step to pay off the mortgage. Let me make a couple comments about the reserve fund. Back in 2015, the finance team recommended to the board that the church establish a reserve fund to help pay for any unexpected, unanticipated, unbudgeted for major expenses, such as if we have to replace HVAC units or replace some of the appliances in the kitchen or do some other major repairs, like some major repairs to the roof as they may occur. The team did a study of our capital assets at the time. As part of our recommendations to the board, we suggested that we have a target in the reserve fund of $250,000, recognizing that that's going to go up and down over the years as we encounter a major expense, and therefore we have to accumulate more funds in a reserve. So we accumulated reserves kind of in a 2-part mode, if you will, beginning back in 16. Number 1, we were budgeting $12,000 a year for reserves. And then number 2, any excess revenue, in other words, where revenues were higher than our expenses for the year, that was also moved into reserves. So since the fund was established in 16, and we've been accumulating funds in that, even though we've had multiple HVAC units we've had to replace. We had to replace some appliances in the kitchen. We've had, as I mentioned, a couple significant roof repairs. We did some work in the parking lot. So we've done a number of things from a capital standpoint, using the reserves, but then replenishing those reserves based on the way that we had structured the kind of build up to the reserves. And now, as of the end of, or I should say as of the end of May, not today, we had $270,000 in our reserve fund. So we were in good shape. Now let me go back to that comment I made about borrowing money from the reserves. As I indicated, we had to use actually $131,000 of reserves, so 270 minus 131. We had to use $131,000 reserve to pay off the mortgage this past Friday. However, at the end of this month, when we close the books for the fiscal year, we anticipate that we're going to have a fairly significant surplus again this year, largely because some of our expenses this past year haven't been as much as we expected or had budgeted for, largely related to the personnel expenses, but also some of the programming expenses. So we're going to have a surplus where we feel like we will be repaying into the reserve about 2/3 of what we are now that we borrowed as of Friday. And the other item that you're going to see in a few moments when Alicia talks about the budget for next year, we are budgeting to put $24,000 a year into the reserves through the budget process. So it will be funded. And then at the end of next year, if again we are lucky enough, good enough to have a surplus of revenue, that also will go into the reserve fund. So my expectations are that by the end of 22-23, the reserve fund will be back to where it was Friday morning, before I took $131,000 out of it. That's my expectation and hope, that we will be back to where we were. Now, the other thing that we're going to do in talking with Alicia, the finance team will redo its study of what should be in how much the reserve fund how large it should be. So we're going to undertake that this coming year. Again, kind of review everything that we've done, where we stand in terms of capital assets, and then seeing whether it should still be $250,000 or more or less, so that we can kind of move forward with respect to budgeting for the reserve funds in the future. So again, I'm happy to share this news with you all, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. One question over here.
Just out of curiosity, when you close the note out, is there any access to like a line of credit to the land and building and stuff, if need be?
No, we did not establish a line of credit. That is certainly something we could look at. We do have a good relationship with Truist, which used to be BB&T. We do have a good relationship with them, and when I went down there Friday morning and talked to the branch manager, they said they'd be willing to help us in the future if we needed more help. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
We now come to our first order of business, which is approving a budget for the 2022-2023 congregational year. That's been circulating, it's been online. I hope there was a meeting to discuss it for people who wanted to ask in-depth questions. And to do the presentation now, we are going to call up another person who's been just a rock and a real inspiration this year. And by the way, Jay Leach was also a part of getting that mortgage retired, as was our budget presenter, Director of Administration, Alicia Hutto.
Please bear with me, please. Hello, everyone. So now we're down to the business portion of the meeting. So let's get started. I first want to offer a financial summary of kind of where we are this year. Of course, we have not had a chance to close the books for the month of May because it just ended. So the financial numbers that I'll be reporting today will be the numbers as of April 2022. Year-to-date contributions are slightly above budget by $719. Total income is below budget by $2,879. It is helpful to note that pledge income continues to trend above budget by 3%, but unfortunately contributions are trending below budget. We are seeing success with our Share the Plate campaign and look forward to reversing this trend. Year-to-date expenses, however, are favorable to budget by $101,942. Overall, our bottom line for the 2021-2022 congregational year continues to trend favorably with a year-to-date net income of $96,298. For the months of May and June, income projections are still uncertain, but as we continue to underspend in the area of personnel, we estimate to finish the year with a surplus of around $75,000 to $80,000. Next slide. And just to give an overall summary of where we are as far as our assets and liabilities, as of the end of April, we have $4,596,628 in assets and $534,635 in liabilities. And as Ron previously reported, as of the end of April, our reserve fund was at $270,170. All right. Are there any questions about the financial summary of where we stand as of April 2022? All right, I'll move forward with the proposed budget for the year. We hope that you've all had an opportunity to review the budget materials set prior to this meeting. We are presenting a budget for the 2022-2023 congregational year that results in a modest surplus. Some of the highlights include our contribution and pledge projections are about $36,000 less than the current year due to a decrease in member pledges and anticipated lower contributions. Personnel expenses are projected to be $72,273 lower next year compared to the current year due to understaffing and overall projected lower personnel costs for the sexton. We have transitioned back to a system that splits the responsibility of cleaning as well as maintenance and repair. So you will see an increase in the maintenance and repair line because we didn't budget for a cleaning service this year, but we have included it in the current year. The personnel area also includes a salary increase for one staff member to ensure that all staff are paid within UUA fair compensation guidelines, a 7% raise for remaining professional staff, and paid coordination for both adult and youth religious education coordination. This also includes the compensation for an interim minister, as well as any supplemental costs that is required to bringing in the interim minister onto staff. We're going to continue to pay our UUA pledge at the current level for next congregational year. And also, as Ron, our superstar volunteer, has reported, by paying off the mortgage in the current year, we've eliminated a mortgage payment from the budget. In return, we are now budgeting $24,000 to help replenish those funds. And as I just pointed out, the increase in the area of maintenance and repair costs covered the expenses for the now budgeted cleaning service, which was not budgeted for in last year's budget. And in any case, in our new system, it does result in a modest cost savings in the area of caring for our sexton. With all of that said, are there any questions or comments?
I move to accept the budget as presented.
Okay, we have a motion, and I'm going to try to figure out how to do this kind of with our easy counting method too. We have 11 votes for the budget through absentee. And I had a couple of people tell me they were voting absentee even though they planned to come because just in case, you know, with COVID and whatever. If you are here and you have already voted absentee, please raise your hand so we can subtract you out of the total. Is that 3? Okay, so we have 3 that just to subtract out of our total. If you would like to vote against this budget that Alicia has just presented, please raise your hand. That looks like a big 0. Anybody who wants to abstain? Okay, we have unanimous approval, and Susan, I assume you can do the math and get it straight down.
I want to give a hand to Alicia for the presentation of the budget.
That was giving a hand to Alicia. For anybody who is remote and wondering why we suddenly started clapping, Alicia kept telling the board how nervous she was about speaking in public. Yeah, I'll put her on the radio in a minute. She's great.
We would now like to call up Tom Nunnenkamp, who serves as the chair of our Memorial Endowment Trust, to announce recipients of this year's grants.
The mission of the Memorial Endowment Trust is to provide a perpetual, prudently managed fund for generous legacy giving to support the Unitarian Universalist community of Charlotte, its present and future members, and its liberal religious mission. translating that into more understandable words, a lot of very generous people over the years contributed money that benefits all of us today. The endowment presents awards every year, and this is one of the special opportunities we have. This year, the endowment was able to approve 7 grants. Our church leadership submitted compelling and well-researched requests, and your trustees were enthusiastic in approving the following. The membership team requested $5,500 to produce a 2 to 3 minute video to help visitors learn more about our community. Our professional staff requested $2,500 to develop an audiovisual design plan for the sanctuary. The Building and Grounds team requested $4,400 to add subtle lighting to our landscape to increase visibility for evening events. The Building and Grounds team also requested $4,800 for awnings over the main entrance doors. Open Door School and the CYRE teams requested $18,000 for 3 new outdoor sheds, replacing the deteriorating and unsafe current storage. The CRYE team also requested $3,700 to provide shelter in inclement weather and life-saving devices in cases of emergency. The Intersectional Justice team requested $5,000 to aid our community partner, the Reentry Housing Alliance. Our grants this year totaled $43,900. These grants not only improve our experience here at 234, but also support our community outreach mission. And they wouldn't have been possible without the foresight and generosity of the many who made provisions in their estate planning to benefit our community. If you have not already done so and included the Uucc in your final documents, please consider doing so. If you have any questions about the specific grant or just want more information on gifting to the endowment, please see me after the meeting.
Okay, I was going to ask if there were any questions for Tom, but Tom was taking care of that, so I don't need to do that. We now come to our next order of business, which is approving 3 trustees to serve from 2022 to 2025. First, we'd like to thank our superb nominating committee for getting us 3 extremely strong candidates. Would Jim Lay, Rita Heath Singer, and Dave Walsh please stand and let us thank you for your splendid work. Okay, our nominees are Chris Clark, Fred Dodson, and Laurie Reed. Chris Clark is a lifelong Unitarian Universalist who joined our community in 1999. He has served in a number of leadership roles here, including finance, communications, ministerial search, and stewardship. He is also active in social justice movements in the community, and of course you probably know him as the man behind the camera or working the sound booth. This will be his first term on the Board of Trustees. Fred Dodson has been a member of Uucc for 20 years. He has served on the social justice team, the Memorial Endowment Trust, and the stewardship team, and he was a member of the Board of Trustees from 2008 to 2011, including a year as board chair. Fred is also known and respected in our broader community for his leadership of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Housing Partnership. Laurie Reed is also a lifelong UU, and she has been a member here for 38 years. She has played leadership roles in children, youth, religious education, She and her husband, Tim Lemond, helped develop our Coming of Age program. She has also been a Memorial Endowment trustee. She served on the Board of Trustees from 2005 to 2008, including a year as board chair. Do we have any nominations from the floor to add to these candidates? All right, seeing none.
Wait,
Um,
I'm gonna be bold.
I beg your pardon?
Wait for the mic.
Wait for the mic.
Oh, there we go.
I'm going to be scary and bold and nominate Michael Amy Sura.
So we need to know if she agrees to serve.
Right. Michael Amy?
Take the mic to Michael, Amy, because we need to know if she agrees to serve.
This is my community, but I am just assessing for myself if this is a safe space for me to serve at this time. So I'm just taking a moment. Well, I would accept in an effort to make great change.
Okay. Now we have a procedural conundrum.
I would assume we have to take a vote on Michael, and if a majority votes for her, we'd have to do the others independently.
Okay.
We've never quite had this before, so this is, and we don't have a board lawyer like when I'm covering school board meetings who can sort all this out.
I'd like to offer a motion.
Wait, please.
We probably should take questions and comments on this motion. That's probably a great idea.
Start with Barbara, please. Barbara, right there. Start with Barbara.
If you want to take questions on that as a motion, then that's on the floor.
Okay. Well, let's do Dave first. Oh, wait.
I was just going to ask if it was possible just to add Michael so that we could have 4 new board members.
I'm sorry, one second.
Can we add Michael so that we have 4 new board members instead of 3?
Right now, our bylaws specify the number of board members and the numbers elected each year. So and I hate this, we talked about this very briefly, but we said we never get nominations from the floor, so we weren't thinking we would have to handle it, but I think we have to elect 3. So I think we need to figure out whether and I would love to have Michael on the board also. She's done amazing things for this community. It's always, the nominating team is always charged with finding the best diversity they can, finding people who are committed, who are, have depth of knowledge, this year in particular. I think we have to choose. If we elect Michael, I think we're going to have to go back and decide somehow who doesn't get it from the 3. I don't know if we have any lawyers or any parliamentarians in here. Any more questions or comments?
Just a quick, is it on? Just a question about criteria. We were under the assumption that we could not consider anyone who was a current staff member, so we actually did not consider Michael because she was a current staff member. And perhaps is it not because she's not a current staff member next year, and we're looking at next year? So just a clarification on that, please.
Point of whether she is staff or contract.
I appreciate the motion, and this could happen to us every year. And Michael, Amy, you would be wonderful to serve on the board. However, I'd like to offer a motion that because the nominating committee vetted these candidates and proposed them to everybody in the congregation, that we could read the occurrence and know that that was to be voted on today, I would move that we move for the slate presented by the nominating committee.
was a motion, oh wait.
I think we have to vote on the motion that's on the floor, which would be Michael, unless... We still have questions and comments. Let's keep going with this, and then we'll...
So if we've got 4 candidates now, we've got to vote on 3 of the 4 candidates. It seems very straightforward to me from a parliamentary perspective. I'm not an expert, but that's generally how it's done. If you have 4 candidates, you vote on 3, or you can vote to delay the vote because you want to learn more about people or something like that. But I think those are your options. Yeah, you can't vote on one person versus the rest of the slate, right? You can't say, let's vote on this one person. And we got 4 people now on the slate. That's what you got.
Let's get some more comments. I understand that. That makes sense to me. Mary, down below here.
Do we have to make a decision right here? It seems to me that if we're going to select 3 from 4, there should be a process that doesn't happen today, but that takes the whole congregation into consideration.
Okay.
I'm trying to get people who haven't spoken yet, which is what I keep guiding with.
A point of order, I believe parliamentary wise, you have a motion on the floor from the lady in the middle here. The motion has been seconded. There should be discussion on that motion and a vote on that motion before we return to any other business. I believe I'm correct on that.
I don't doubt it, but it's complicated. Let's hear from Sarah and from, I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
All right. I wanted to ask, considering that the bylaws are very clear about us only being able to elect 3 members to the Board of Trustees at a time, is there like a waiting list for candidates? Because I think Michael would be a good board member too. I'm not, I'm sorry, this question made more sense before I started talking. Is there a way to suspend or nominate? Is there a waiting list or something that we could put Michael's name on as this is someone the congregation would support as a board member, possibly consider them in the future?
Well,
does that make sense?
I understand.
Thank you.
Want to say anything about this?
Formally, no. Formally, what our bylaws call for is this process to happen each year, that there is a nominating committee who chooses 3 and we vote on that 3. Informally, we have been saying that because sometimes the nominating committee talks to somebody who would be great who says, I just can't this year because of things that are going on in my life. But maybe in the next year or 2, I'd be willing to consider it. So I think that is something that informally we as a board want to have to pass on to the next nominating team. We've even talked about whether nominating teams should be staggered, so there's always somebody from the past nominating team. Part of what we're going to have to do moving forward is look at our systems. There is tension and conflict within this community. There's a lot of love, there's a lot of support, but there's also a lot of pain, and we know that. And we're going to need to look at our bylaws and things like this. I don't think this is the time to just chunk everything out and say we won't regard the bylaws. And we got to figure out how we do the vote, but I think we need to pick 3 trustees today. But I guess in theory somebody could make a motion to say, no, we postpone this and table it. But we have another question or comment in the back.
I want to speak. I've been waiting. I'm sorry.
So I do want to challenge our community. I'm hearing 2 things at the same time. I'm hearing we weren't prepared for a question that was asked out. I had no intention of derailing this. I was literally just answering the question, is there anyone else?
No, that's correct.
And we don't really know what we're supposed to do. And I'm hearing we have to follow a law that we have. We have to follow the rules. We're having 2 things at the same time. This is white supremacy culture, not skin color. This is white supremacy culture in action. When are we going to turn to the written rule? And when are we going to wing it based on whoever holds power? I understand that there was a motion, but I also understand we didn't have a full discussion before that motion was made. And that's what's needed if we're going to be a community. I was asked once, what does it mean to be a part of a welcoming community in a Unitarian Universalist place? This is what it means. It means breaking away from the rules so that we make sure we are welcoming. I would hope that we pause instead of doing what white supremacy culture does. Moves forward, despite the fact that clearly we need a pause. We don't know what we're doing right now. I had no intentions of thwarting it. I didn't know the three things. I apologize. I don't rarely show up. Partly because it's uncomfortable. When I have a thought and I share it, and my intention is not to make my brothers and sisters here uncomfortable. We need to pause for a second.
Talk to Michael first. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, here's a perspective that I might put forth to the people that are here. We do have a process where we come together, the people that are interested in having their voice heard, have a chance to sit here and participate. And this is our time. This is the group. We also have bylaws that say what we can and can't do. They say clearly the number of trustees. I don't think now is the time to change the bylaws or to even consider doing something to expand it. That is a major process. So there is a process for how we should handle a situation like this, which is now that we have 4 candidates, I think we need to vote on the 4 candidates. And what I would propose is that we hold the vote, and the 3 with the highest number of votes become the trustees. That's my suggestion to the people that are here, that are the ones that cared enough to be here and participate in this. So that's my thought.
All right. Barbara, would you restate your motion, please? We've been through a lot of different points. Wait, please. Let Ken give you the mic.
And we do have a question from Facebook from Kathleen Carpenter that says, what about us who have already voted? I assume if you've captured your absentee ballot, it's counted, but no? You can rescind an absentee ballot?
They were not voting on the current question. They were voting on a different question.
Okay.
Barbara, please.
I am inclined to withdraw my motion if the person who seconded will accept that. In favor of voting for all 4.
I would like to restate the motion that we vote on the 3 candidates that were proposed by the team proposing them.
To restate that, we weren't, the motion is to vote on the slate of 3 candidates. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Tom, what have you got?
Well, I wanted to make a comment before we address that. And I guess my question is, can't we table this? Can't we table this so that the people who have submitted absentee ballots are participating in the process, and that the people that are here can fully investigate all 4 candidates, because I think we have 4 excellent people here. And I think instead of having to rush to judgment today, personally, I don't see anything that says that vote has to take place today. I'm not sure in the bylaws if there's any accommodation, or if we can, delay this for a week, 2 weeks, whatever it is, and then have the vote.
Is anybody here, I have my phone, but I'm trying to keep it open for the comments. Is there anybody here who can look up precisely what it says in our bylaws?
So the bylaws
Sam.
say
the board shall appoint a nominating committee of 3 voting members, none of whom are current members of the board. The nominating committee shall submit a list of nominees for members of the Board of Trustees to the membership at the annual meeting. Additional nominations may be submitted from the floor of the annual meeting by voting members, provided that absent floor nominees have submitted written consent. Michael's here, so that doesn't apply. Trustees shall be elected by the voting membership at the annual meeting. So that feels very clear that it's today. There's not much process in that. David, yeah, you said that we should vote on the floor today. I think that makes sense to me as well. But
and to your question about the absentee votes, the bylaws say that if the vote changes, the absentee votes are invalidated. So they would not count unless you voted only on these 3. So those are invalidated for that reason.
I'm not sure if it's appropriate to ask a question of Michael, who hasn't had the opportunity to talk to a nominating committee about all this. But I know that this year you are a paid contractor, and I'm wondering if you are already a paid contractor for next year, and if so, would you see a conflict of interest?
I'm not a contractor. Thank you. My employment expires 2030.
Okay, then it seems fairly clear that what we should really do is organize a straightforward election where we count votes for, I would really love to do this by secret ballot if we could. Sharon?
In lieu of a secret ballot, can we ask the 4 people to leave the room so that there's not an issue there?
That would be fine with me. I don't know. I'm sorry, ma'am, what? I can't hear you.
She's going to hand out Post-it notes.
Oh, Post-it notes, yeah. I don't know.
I think the bottom line is, though, someone is not going to get elected, and that's going to be hard. The number of votes will be of record. And that's going to be hard too. I mean, I think everybody's going to want to vote. I guess that's our next question is, what if we have unanimous votes for all 4? Vote for 3? Okay.
I don't understand something. Why do we have a process that creates a situation if we're not ready to deal with it? So I think we're not ready to deal with this situation, but we have a process that created this situation. You ask for nominees from the floor, you got one. We don't know what to do with it. It feels chaotic to me to decide that now. In this room, I think we've got 4 qualified candidates. Whether you change the bylaws, go back through the process of vetting people or something, but make some sense out of this. Because I don't feel comfortable participating in a vote today.
Well, forgive me, but we're not changing the bylaws according to what Megan read to us. We're following the bylaws. And so that's what I believe we should do. We should simply set up an election. Hang on one second, Barbara. We should set up an election where each of us votes for 3 trustees, and the person who gets, the 3 people who get the most votes will become the members of the Board of Trustees. It seems pretty straightforward. Go ahead, Barbara.
I suggest we take a 5-minute break and have a staff person go downstairs, take a sheet of paper, divide it into 4, put the names of the 4 candidates on there, Xerox enough copies, cut it in 4 pieces, and everybody would give everybody a ballot. It can be easily done.
No? Yeah. That would certainly be one way to do it. Yeah, I don't have any problem with that. So, what were you saying? Okay.
I I agree with this lady. In order to respect the bylaws and still continue with the voting today, I don't even think you have to call a break. If we can find a piece of paper for each person in the room to privately write down their 3 candidates, that will still be done privately, and we can continue on with the meeting.
Right.
Just get a piece of paper and write down 3 candidates.
One piece, I don't follow that at all.
You would just write down.
I think the ballots are in process, so they'll be here shortly. I think they already started, so they'll get it.
All right. Give Margie a chance to talk, please.
You know, it may be a little hard, but that's what democracy is. You know, some people win, some people don't this time. So I would like to hear from each candidate just briefly why they want to serve on the board and maybe something about their vision. If you're calling for change, what kind of change are you talking about? Could we hear briefly? Because not everybody here knows all the candidates, I would imagine.
So, I believe everybody's here, right? Is Laurie here? I don't.
We've already had the chance to know about those 3.
I'm sorry.
We've already had the opportunity to know about those 3.
Wait for the mic, please.
We've already had the opportunity to get the background for those folks. We just need one. Is that correct?
But are there objections to what Margie just proposed? No? Okay, then let's start with, well, alphabetically.
Laurie's not here, is what I understood. I'm not sure I heard a reflection back on what you shared, which was that it felt chaotic. I heard a response, but it wasn't actually to what your point of what you were sharing. But Laurie's not here. I am going to bring back that part, and I understand part of this we are making up as we go along, and part of it we're not. And do we make a motion for how the ballots are going to happen? They already are in process. I mean, I'm still going to bring us back to, we have bylaws, but the bylaws are not complete. And we're picking and choosing. We are. I'm sorry, I know this is frustrating, but...
Well, it's frustrating because the bylaws are complete. I don't understand your comment. Wait, I'm sorry. Give the mic back to her.
Okay.
I'm awfully sorry, ma'am, but I cannot hear you.
So do the bylaws help us with this process of when there's 4? Do we make 4? What do we do with the people who are absent? Do they send it in again? That's what I'm asking about. The bylaws are complete in some way, absolutely, and I understand how challenging that gets to process to change the bylaws. And I'm also acknowledging, or I think my perception is, there are pieces of either the bylaws or the process that are completely unclear or absent. Because we, as you shared, we haven't experienced this before.
This is giving me a tremendous amount of anxiety, which is a good sign to me that I probably shouldn't be doing this. So I'm going to make it easy for all of you and my candidacy. I will always support the church in many ways. I'll remain on the Memorial Endowment Trust. I can't do it. This is too much today. So thank you all.
Did I hear correctly that the folks who sent in absentee ballots were now not valid? I can't see what seems to be a surprise move to disenfranchise really a portion of the populace. I think the participation level in the, of this whole thing would go up dramatically now that we know there's some controversy.
If you would mind, that'd be
Okay.
great.
How's that? Is that
That's
better?
better.
I'm sorry. So I don't want anybody disenfranchised, from participating in this selection process, right? So I think you need to table it, take it back to the committee for discussion, and come up with a new process, I guess, to select your board of trustee nominees, right? I can't see somebody being driven from the contest, like Fred. I mean, this is just not right, okay? We need to go back and rethink this thing and come back with another process or nomination cycle.
You got another question, comment back there?
Getting back to you're doing good.
First of all, we can change the bylaws if there are bylaws. Secondly, we have something in the bylaws that does not have a process. What's missing is the process, which we're evidencing here. So making it more legalistic is not helping. The reality is we called for nominations from the floor. We've had people who've withdrawn, and we've created chaos. So I think the way we do things needs to be looked at, and it is a process question.
There is no question that there is a call for us to relook at our systems and our bylaws. This is also the fact, though, that you just generally don't rip them up on the floor, and they have a big task ahead of them. And I say they because this is my last things. But we are getting comments from Facebook. We have Lisa Nisley says, those of us who voted absentee are now being excluded from this process. I guess that's a comment.
So I think that when we revised the bylaws, because I was on the board many years ago, we did a revision. I think the revision process, it ends up being official when this group essentially votes on it, right? I mean, the process of approving a change to the bylaw is the process of your quorum or your, whatever we call this, we don't have quorum, they approve that process. So I'm wondering if we have the authority here to say we want to pause this process, look at our bylaws, take a moment, because this is the approving body for the bylaws. So I'm thinking that we may also have the authority to say, I move that we circumvent the bylaw at this moment and pause, and if we all voted to do that, that would be acceptable. I'm not sure, but I'm wondering.
I'm actually very nervous about this myself. I was very much where Fred was at too. But I will say that in the question this was approached.
Speak even under the mic, speak loudly.
Okay. In the bylaws itself, under Article 9, Section 2, it does give a description of bylaw interpretation and any dispute involved. And it does state that these bylaws shall be discussed by the board or decided by the board at a regular or special meeting. Such decisions shall be final unless appealed by a duly authorized meeting of the membership, which I believe this does qualify, and overruled by a majority of the members present and voting. So from what I'm reading into this, it sounds like the board needed to go into a special session to discuss how to handle this, come back with their findings and present it to us. And we get to vote on whether we approve it or not.
But you don't have the notice for a special meeting, the time required for notice.
This is a special meeting. This qualifies as a special meeting. Yes.
No, I think this is regular. I'm not sure it qualifies as a special meeting of the board.
It does qualify as a regular meeting for the congregation.
I don't doubt that we need to make changes to our bylaws, but we can't just sit here and say, let's just circumvent the bylaws. We don't say, let's just circumvent the Constitution of the United States. We have to go through the process. So I'm glad we had a nomination from the floor because of, that's democracy. What's so hard about voting for 3 of 4 candidates? Although I heard Fred Dodson withdraw his nomination. So if that's the case, we have 3 to vote on. I suggest we move forward.
All right, then we have a slate of candidates. Chris, we don't have Fred, we have Michael, Amy, and Laurie. I forgot who the third one was. Oh, wait. Yes.
One other question. I don't know if this is possible, but is it possible to not close this meeting, but to adjourn it for a week? And we have another meeting next week, to take this vote?
Well, I personally would not favor that. I would prefer we have 3 slots on the Board of Trustees to fill. We have 3 candidates to fill them. I would rather propose a vote of approval for the 3 candidates that we have than to go into postponement in some fashion. Mike?
Fred Dodson is a hero of mine. I'm very disappointed that he withdrew his nomination. However, he did, in my view, officially withdraw. And so I agree with you that right now we have 3 candidates and 3 openings. So I would personally support, and I would put everybody to support going forward with the 3 that we have. So I agree with you.
All right, I have lost track. Are there any motions on the floor that should be dealt with before we hold the election? That's what we do. Yeah, over there.
I make a motion that since Fred Dodson has withdrawn his name from consideration, we only have 3 candidates. The problem is solved. The problem with the election is solved, not the other problem. I thereby now move that we vote on the current 3 candidates.
Well, let's see. Yeah, I mean, that would be the best thing. Did he get a second? Yes. He did. Okay. So, is it Barbara?
I'd like
oh, wait.
to
No.
to make a vote for the slate.
Barbara, please wait until you get the mic, please.
I'd like to amend the motion to vote for the slate of the 3 candidates rather than in an individual vote.
Oh, well, I think
that's what I meant.
Yeah. I think that's pretty straightforward. All right, let's, without objection, go ahead and vote on this motion.
Do we need to, should we check the halls and or get Kelly back up? She may be down making ballots.
Oh, yes.
Let me just follow.
Alicia's got it. I hope somebody's taking notes for posterity. Margie?
Can you just restate the 3 that we're voting for?
Yes. Chris Clark, Laurie Reed, and Michael Amy Sierra. Okay. John?
While we're waiting on whatever information, I just want to offer up again my appreciation, the discomfort. I'm extremely uncomfortable with this. I don't like this, but this is part of the growth we need. And I just want to point out, we have an interim minister coming in This is part of their job, is to help find these areas, these gaps, review bylaws. This has brought us a spotlight. So I'm cautiously optimistic. This is the kind of work we need to do as a community to be stronger. Feels horrible to me, but I can see where the light leads us. I think we're on a decent path. And again, change is coming to us, and it's a great time to rediscover who we are, who we want to be, and we'll have new people in place to help us with that. So just want to make sure everyone understands that's a lot of what the Interim Minister will do is, let's talk about that meeting. Let's have some small groups and talk about, why did you feel this way or that way? Why did, what do you think should have happened? Let's work through these. So I just wanted to offer that up.
Okay.
Our people have been notified. Did we already vote?
No, not yet. I'm not that quick.
What was getting the applause?
That was for John's inspirational statement, which it was. All right. Take your mask off, Harvey, please.
I guess I heard the last one saying they want to vote as a slate, right? Is there a way to vote individually?
We would rather not do that.
We have a motion for the slate. We have to take that motion and vote that.
Yes.
Well, that's been passed. Oh, wait, it hasn't been passed yet.
No, it's not passed.
But we're going to. I have a feeling.
Right.
Okay. Question is to vote on the new slate of candidates en masse, okay, together. All in favor, please raise your hands. Okay. Opposed? Oh, Tom. Okay. Abstaining?
No.
Anybody abstaining? Okay, thank you. So we have 2 abstentions, 1 no, and how?
We need to do the abstains again. It was more than 2.
Oh, is it more than 2? Okay, sorry, I didn't see them. So abstentions, raise hands, please. Go on. Well, you guys are counting.
We probably should do the in favors hands up because people have come and gone.
Yeah.
We're close to 89, but I don't know if
No, that's fine. We need to get a count of it. Yeah.
Okay, you counted it.
I think there was seven abstains.
7 abstentions, 1 no, and can we see the in favor people, please, so we can get an accurate count? Thank you. Can we release these folks? Yeah, oh, count me in favor too.
So we've got 80 yes. Oh, I didn't count you too. We have 82.
Yeah, please. Yeah, I think we're done. Yeah. We're counting, or we have counted. So how many do we have in favor?
82 yes.
Mm-hmm.
7 abstentions.
Okay.
Can you repeat that in the microphone for people online?
82 yes, 7 abstentions, 1 no. Okay, so the motion is passed, and the next order of business will be to vote to approve or disapprove the slate of candidates that we have in place now. All right? So with no objection, I think we'll go ahead with that. Okay, so how many, you want to do this the other way? Okay, we'll do it for real. Please raise your hand if you approve of this slate of candidates, if you vote in favor of this slate of candidates.
Sorry, we just needed these guys. Sorry.
You guys are good.
Yes.
70? Huh, okay. How many people do not approve or oppose or vote no on this slate of candidates?
There were some hands that were not up, so.
Yeah, well, we're going to, we will root them out.
Are you asking for the abstention?
Absolutely.
Wait.
We're looking for no's right now. Okay.
0 no's.
All right. Abstentions? Okay. Eight abstentions, 80, 70. All right. I'm actually fairly good at addition. Where did everybody go? All right. Anyway. All right, thank you. The slate of candidates is approved, and our new trustees are Michael Amy Serra, Chris Clark, and Laurie Reed. Congratulations. It's my turn. It's my turn. Oh, yeah.
We would like to let you know that for next year, our secretary will be Lisa Hagan, and the board has elected as co-chairs Kurt Merkel and Paul Wilson. Kurt, as you probably figured out from the service earlier, just left for a family vacation, so he's not here. He will be great. Paul, I swear I did not anticipate this when I penciled him in to do the trustees vote, but Paul, you do not know how much of a debt of gratitude you owe to Paul this year. I am in awe that he is taking on another year of this. Because one thing we have learned is just when we think we've gotten through the biggest challenge, there are more. So if he'd been charging by the hour, even at minimum wage, we'd be bankrupt, but we're very, very lucky to have Kurt and Paul in charge with our new board.
At this point, board members who have completed their terms now rotate off the board. We want to take a moment to acknowledge the people who have served us so well and whose terms expire now. They are Susan Cox, Ann Doss Helms, and Tawana Wilson Allen. You should have saved that, because I was going to ask you to do it again in just a minute. Tawana was forced by ill health to leave the board a few months ago, but for as long as she possibly could, she gave the board all the benefits of her wisdom, experience, and insight, for which we are and were and are extremely grateful. Susan was elected last year to fill out the balance of an incomplete term during a year that, unbeknownst to her, would require far more in the way of time and commitment than she or anyone expected. In response, she brought to that work immense dedication and skills, providing a continuous flow of indispensable help to the board as we wrestled with some very fraught situations. I have a special and personal word of thanks for Anne. Not only did she bring her vast resources of knowledge, intelligence, dedication, and good sense to her role as co-chair, but she also managed to save me from committing a great many mistakes, oversights, and failures of imagination. Thank you very much. All right, now, would all of you like to join me, please, in thanking? You've already done that. Now it's time for reports. Jay Leach will give us our staff report.
It is with an admixture of feelings that I bring to you my final annual meeting report as your minister. I begin with words of appreciation for 4 members of our community whose involvement has been particularly important in this past year. 3 of them, Michael Amy Sierra, Melissa Strope, and Lisa Walls, have served as contracted coordinators in children and youth religious education. Amidst all the immense challenges, Lisa, Melissa, and Michael have sustained our programming, and we as a community are most grateful. While it was not my role to help coordinate, oversee, or evaluate their involvement, I did have that responsibility where the 4th of these members is concerned. Sharon Baker, in her role as contract coordinator of our adult religious education and spiritual development program, has been nothing short of extraordinary. Sharon's efforts have kept the heartbeat of this place going, and we are immensely appreciative for all that you have given us. Thank you, Sharon Baker. Now to my beloved professional staff colleagues. Kelly Green joined our professional staff in November 2014. I've had few satisfactions greater than watching her develop in her work here, growing into our primary connection point as a community. She has been deeply committed, occasionally cantankerous, occasionally willing to share her mind, to push me and us, to challenge us to be true to who we say we want to be, and relentless in her expansive welcome. She believes in us and in a bold way of being Unitarian Universalist that we have not yet found the courage to realize. This past month, Kelly was promoted, expanding her role now as our Director of Member Relations. From this new position, she will make an even greater impact on the life and heart of this community. Kelly, what a gift you have been for us and to me. We are deeply grateful. Belinda Parry joined our professional staff in September 2011. At first quiet, satisfied to remain behind the scenes, her immense giftedness did not allow her to stay hidden. Her role expanded and expanded and expanded. It must now be said that without Belinda's keen technical skills and organizational capacities, we would not have been able to offer services during the time when we could not gather. We have not adequately noted or appreciated Belinda's contributions during these past 2.5 tumultuous years. Belinda, for keeping us on track, for saying yes with a smile, for your occasional yet powerful willingness to challenge me and us, for laboring with such devotion and asking for so little attention for doing it. What a gift you have been for us and to me. Belinda's unable to be here. I want you to make a note to thank Belinda personally. We are deeply grateful. John Herrick joined our professional staff in August 2007. Many of you have heard the story, the response I gave to the director of the Music Search Committee when they asked what I wanted in this colleague. Please find someone who will challenge and push me. Oh, had I only known. John, your professionalism, your depth of commitment, your willingness to say, okay, to even my wildest musical notions, your imaginative approach, your relentless energy, your willingness to shift and expand your professional role has been consistently remarkable. Has any musician with so many gifts given them with such modest need for recognition, committed always more to us than to a chance to stand out? What a gift you have been for us and to me. We are deeply grateful. Alicia Hutto joined our professional staff in September 2005. She did so, we now know, with the secret desire that one day she would get to speak publicly on a regular basis. Alicia came here from a temp agency when we were in crisis. Fortunately, for these past 17 years, we've been able to continue finding or creating crises that have necessitated her sticking around. Now, in her expanded role, she is the best damn director of administration in the UUA. There are no, hang on, I'm not done. I'm just getting started on Alicia. There are no superlatives adequate to express what Alicia means or gives to this community. She knows everything, and then some. Her disposition is legendary, a ready smile and laugh, leaving in her sunny wake a growing number here who recognize what good fortune is ours to have her on our staff. Alicia. What a gift. What an absolute gift you have been for us and to me. We are immensely grateful. Thank you. I want you to note something. Since Kelly's arrival on our staff in November 2014, the 5 of us have worked alongside one another through the thick and the thin for 7.5 years together. Between us, we offer almost 70 years of experience here in this congregation and many more than that in our professional lives. I would challenge you to find any 5 professional staff members in the UUA with a longer track record of working together, and am confident you'd be hard-pressed to find 5 with a longer collective track record of commitment. If there have been successes, and there surely have been, we share in them together. What a treat will fall to my friend and colleague, Lisa Bovey-Kemper, to get to step into this professional staff that we have created and sustained for so long. I'd be remiss were I to omit my gratitude today for 2 other people. In the most ordinary years, the challenge of co-chairing the all-volunteer UUCC Board of Trustees is not inconsequential. This has not been the most ordinary year in all kinds of ways. And Doss Hounds and Paul Wilson, your leadership alone in this year warrants our collective deep gratitude. But that gratitude takes a particularly personal shape for me. More than anybody else here, the two of you know how I have agonized in this year with personal and professional challenges, and with, at times, a maddening search for clarity. For your wisdom in balancing the good of this community with concern for my well-being, for your inexplicably steady hands on the tiller, declining to give attention to drama or distraction. Your patience, support, affirmation, and encouragement. For the dignity of direct communication. For speaking in positive terms whenever possible, and for holding confidences carefully. And let's be honest. For your ability to bite your tongues when I could read so clearly the expletives that were crossing your minds in some of our conversations. I have not words to express adequate thanks. This community has no idea all of what you have navigated in this year, nor does it have any way to imagine the resultant debt of gratitude that you are owed. I am and will remain forever grateful that you were at the helm in this of all the years of my professional career. Thank you.
And finally, a report from your Board of Trustees. This has been a year. At this time last year, we had no idea what was ahead. We thought we had three main tasks as a board. This congregation had just approved a covenant of right relations, and we thought we would need to figure out how to follow up on that. We had to figure out what should take the place of the call to action that was expiring, actually had expired. And we hope to resolve our long struggle with how to monitor progress toward our vision and goals. By the time we held our board retreat in October, Eve Stevens had announced her plans to leave the ministry after this year. And we knew Jay was starting to think about his departure. We had no idea what the pandemic was going to do as far as our opportunity to resume in-person activities. So we made a decision that this was not the time to launch a long process of doing, say, a 5-year plan. Instead, we asked ourselves what this community needed most to focus on during a time of transition and uncertainty. Little did we know. In January, about halfway through the congregational year, we put out a call for recommitment and renewal, focused on strengthening our connections with each other. We affirmed that our commitment to justice, inside our walls and outside, would not go away, but would need to be redefined in response to a changing environment. And we started reaching out to teams and affinity groups to talk about the future. As I think you all know now, life took some more twists, and decisions about Jay's departure pretty much pushed all other business to the side. I will say this is one of the biggest challenges I have faced in my 28 years with UUCC, and there were plenty of times when I felt like I was in over my head. And I wrote that before today's meeting. Y'all, we are all volunteers, and we know we have not handled everything perfectly. It has been, I know other board members have felt that same sense of, what are we doing here? It has been rewarding, including today, to be part of this community pulling together to meet the challenge. Throughout all of the toughest times, I've seen our ministers, our staff, board members, and so many of you step up to do what's best for the future of this beloved community. So now we're poised to enter a new phase of our life as a community. We still have a lot of challenges. We need to articulate who we want to be, who we can be, and how we can move into the future. We still need to think about that covenant. We must figure out how to truly treat each other with love and respect, and how to respond when that doesn't happen. The board will keep working to figure out how to govern with vision and optimism, and also with oversight and accountability. We know that many of you want greater transparency in leadership. If you felt like the interim process was over before you knew what was happening or had a chance to weigh in, you're absolutely right. That was the nature of that situation. There just was not time for congregational input and deliberation. But that is going to change as we move forward. Interim ministers, as you have heard, are specifically trained to engage congregations to clarify their values, strengths, and weaknesses. So you will be asked to help shape our future with your ideas, with your time, and yes, with your money. Alicia probably talked a little bit more to the board about this than to the meeting, but we have done really well so far, but there are going to be some big challenges moving forward. And you're going to hear a serious challenge from the stewardship team in the coming year. How well we meet it will shape our position in recruiting a new minister and the staff that we need. I know it might be tempting to say, I'm just going to wait and see how things go. And yes, we know there are people who are stepping away or scaling back because they're unhappy with some things. Here's the one thing to remember. For the coming year, cruise control and the status quo are not options for us. So here's the thing to know. If you're here in person or online, you're committed to this community. So I would just ask you to talk to all of your friends about what it will take to build on what's good here and to imagine what could be better. And we'll now hear our closing words from Susan Cox.
So you will all be really happy to know that I have nothing to add to Anne's beautifully expressed summary of this year's board experience. I want to quickly echo the sentiment that if you believe this community adds to the quality of your life and is a needed presence in the greater Charlotte area, then this is the time. Step up, engage, contribute in all the ways you can to keep us strong and vibrant as we grow and thrive through the interim process and beyond. Finally, please save the date for 2 events celebrating Jay and the Uucc. We'll gather on the afternoon of July 23rd for fun, food, music, sharing, and affirmation. 1 week later, not the next day, people keep getting that confused. A week later, following Jay's final service on July 31st, we'll gather again to say goodbye with smiles, tears, hugs, food, and of course, music. Watch for details in Currents and on Facebook. Thank you for being here today. Go forth into the sunshine.